Okay, so I just caught up with Josh. He moved the cows this morning into a fresh paddock full of grass. And at this point, you know that we focus on the ethical care of our animals. But let's talk to Josh and see what happens if they get sick, or how do we grow an abundant pasture to feed all of them, how all of this works. So Josh, hi, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Do you want to do a quick overview of our cattle operation here?
Yes, so we run right at 300 acres of grass, and we're a cow-calf, stocker, yearling finishing operation combined. So we run around 50 cow-calf pairs, and then we supplement above and beyond that to feed the folks that are hopefully watching this video.
So explain a little bit more about how we supplement with calves.
Yes, so the calves that we purchase all come from local farms where they practice low stress handling, rotational grazing just like ourselves, and also fence line weaning, and they don't use any antibiotics or anything like that as well. So what that does for us is we're able to raise our own calves but also supplement for meat demand at the same time.
So speaking of antibiotics, roughly over like 20,000 pounds of antibiotics are used in livestock production annually in the U.S. How do we raise our cattle without the use of any antibiotics here?
That is a great question, and it really all goes back to what we're standing on top of. If you look around me here, we've got a ton of diversity in the plant species. So what actually happens when a cow is grazing, you know, they actually use their tongue to rip the plants like this. Well, what they can do is they can selectively self-medicate by grazing the different species that we have here. And that's how we get by with it, other than, you know, the daily rotations. So the daily rotations keep them off their own manure and urine. So next move, it reduces fly population issues.
So it's a cleaner environment.
Yep. And that's all I can really think of.
Yeah, it's pretty natural process from what I understand, and especially since we're not using any like chemical fertilizers. This is all what goes in the animal that they're eating here on the ground. It's coming back out the tail end. So we don't use any chemical fertilizers, right? We don't spray anything. We don't use anything on our pasture.
Correct. So what you just alluded to there is dead on. About 90% of what goes in the cow's mouth comes out the back end as manure and urine. So a lot of what they're consuming is coming back to the ground. And above and beyond that, what we try to do with regenerative ag is create a nice habitat for the soil microbes to survive and thrive, and that converts all of that waste energy back from the animals back in to feed the soil.
Right, and that's soil health is super important, because if you don't have it, you're gonna have to use synthetic fertilizers. You're gonna have
Correct.
to use a crutch. So like with the crops, we don't grow crops here, but with crops in the United States, like 20 million tons of synthetic fertilizer are used when you could be rotating animals across that land.
Correct.
And you know, putting down natural fertilizer. So let's talk a little bit about harvesting these animals. How does that work?
Yeah, so we pride ourselves in the handling techniques that we use to load the animals. It's very stress-free. So we have basically corral groups of generally less than 10, usually 8 to 10. Will basically get separated from the herd, you know, when it's time. They're hauled in a small stock trailer to the processing facility that is family owned and operated and open to the public. So anybody can literally walk in this place, and you know, it is family owned and operated. So there are sometimes in the waiting area, you know, the owner's children are there with us. You can also purchase meat in this facility. So when you walk in the front of it, there's, you know, glass where you can see out into where they're actually doing the processing work. But you can also, you know, buy from upright freezers. And then you know, the animals as they come through the process there, you know, they can't see what's going on with the, sorry, you just gotta keep an eye on the back of your head sometimes. As the animals are coming through the processing, they can't see the other animals that, you know, might be getting to take their turn next, right? So all that's segregated.
Yeah, and explain it like they do it in a very humane way. It's quick and it's painless to the animal. They don't know what, you know, they don't see it coming. It is very low stress and humane.
Correct. Compared
to the industrial model of like 200 to 400 head of animals an hour that are going through.
Correct.
You know, they're driving how many miles? It's like,
yeah, sometimes hours. When I say hours, you know, it could be 1,000 miles in you know, a big semi-trailer full of 40 head, 30 to 40 head, and then they, you know, get rushed through this where the processing facility can't necessarily focus and make sure that it's done its job on each individual animal, and can make sure that it's actually passed comfortably and humanely, whereas the small processing facility can.
Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you think that people need to know about our cattle operation?
This is just, you know, one piece of the whole synergy of all the different operations that you're viewing in our farm tour, and without this piece, the other pieces wouldn't work as well. So that's one thing to keep in mind, you know, when you're shopping from small farmers like us that are doing very similar things. It takes an entire ecosystem to make it as efficient or extremely efficient for what it is.
All right, last question, because the cows are getting a little rowdy around here. What are you most proud of here at Ayers Valley Farm with your cattle?
I would just say, you know, we started this to feed ourselves healthy, great tasting meats, and it's kind of fulfilled my cup as far as being able to provide this same thing for, you know, thousands of families who purchase from us.
Awesome. Well, if you guys have any questions, we encourage you to leave a comment below. The cows are taking over our spot here. They're grazing all around us. So we're going to jump off here, but if you have questions, please drop them below. We will answer them. Josh and I will get back to you. Check out the rest of our videos on our virtual farm tour, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.
See y'all.